All right. Good evening. I'm Daryl Ray. I'm Director of Special Projects, and one of my responsibilities in the Division of Student Life this year is to oversee and support operations for Fraternity Sorority Life. So we want to thank you this evening for joining us. We will do introductions, and then we'll turn it over to our student leaders who will give you information about the process, and then we'll have an opportunity for you all to ask questions. So as I said, I'm Daryl Ray. I've been at Rhodes now almost 2 years and in student life. And this year I'm working with Fraternity Sorority Life, community standards, and some of the COVID support, and also working on some projects out of the president's office. And now I'll turn it over to Dean Golston.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Gostin. I'm the Dean of Students here at Rhodes College. It's my second year being the Dean of Students. So fourth year here at Rhodes College, and have worked with several departments in student life. And for the last 3 years, have worked with Fraternity and Sorority Life, and have really enjoyed working with our Greek students. And so I'm continuing that on this year. And so we have two of our councils here on tonight who will share with you our rush and recruitment process as we get ready to go this year under COVID, how we will do rush and recruitment. So they have been working really, really hard on creating a process for our in-person and remote students to be able to enjoy the process and partake of it. And so you have Margaret Lawson, Star Milbury, and Luke Harrison, who will share with you how this will work for a Panhellenic Council and Interfraternal Council this spring. So I will turn it over to them.
Hi, y'all. I'm Margaret Larson. I'm a senior currently and a biochemistry and molecular biology major, and I'm the current Panhellenic president.
Hi, I'm Star Milbury. I'm a senior here at Rhodes from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a neuroscience and Spanish double major, and I am vice president of recruitment for Panhellenic.
How's it going, everyone? Hope you're having a good night. I'm Luke Harrison. I'm a junior here from Dallas, Texas. I'm a political economy major, and I am the president of the IFC here at Rhodes.
I'm going to share a PowerPoint screen, and then we'll get started. Okay. So to start off, the National Panhellenic Conference has 4 sororities: AOPI, Chi Omega, Tri Delta, and Kappa Delta. And so what is NPC? So the National Panhellenic Council is the governing body for its sorority members, as well as the premier advocacy and support organization for its members. And all NPC sororities strive to promote philanthropy, leadership, academics, and involvement on their campus. And so a little bit about recruitment before Star gives some more details. So you have to go through formal recruitment, which will occur February 5th through the 8th of this year. And during recruitment, you will attend events at each houses virtually and have a chance to meet the women involved and learn more about the chapter's activities, philanthropies, and much more. And the link to register can be found on the Rhodes FSL webpage and also on our Instagram at Rhodes NPC. And the registration deadline is this Friday. And so why should you consider becoming a member? So sororities can be a place where women make lifelong friendships, develop leadership and professional skills, and become a part of something bigger than themselves. And they also allow for engagement in various community service activities, as well as expose members to opinions and backgrounds different from their own. And there's also an extensive alumni network that can be very beneficial.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the recruitment process itself, because especially transitioning online, it can seem quite intimidating. So in 2021, formal recruitment will be conducted via Zoom, and each day, potential new members, typically referred to as PNMs, will be provided a schedule of parties in which they can virtually visit each house and begin to make different connections and have conversations with the active members. And so recruitment here at Rhodes is held over 4 days, including open house, philanthropy, preference, and finally bid day. It starts February 5th, as Margaret says, and bid day is going to be Monday, February 8th. Each round offers a unique opportunity to become more familiar with each sorority, including their philanthropy and individual sisterhood, and the focus of each night is somewhat different. Initially, P&Ms will be introduced to all 4 chapters on open house, and then however, the maximum number of houses one can attend then reduces after each subsequent round, and new schedules are generated via mutual selection. So if we can go to the next slide. What does mutual selection mean? It's a term tossed around a lot when talking about sorority recruitment, but mutual selection means that both the P&Ms and sororities have equally weighted input. The rankings from both parties are matched neutrally and as fairly as possible. So what that means at the end of each round or each night of recruitment, P&Ms will select the sororities whose events they attended in preferential order. So they'll rank them in an order. And at the same time, the sororities will submit their selection of P&Ms to invite back in preferential order. And so mutual selection means that each P&M's preferences and the sorority selections are processed electronically to generate invites to the next round. And then these invites are algorithmically calculated in order to be as fair and as neutral as possible. So no one party, the P&M or the sorority itself, has more sway over where or where not P&Ms are invited back to. These schedules are then distributed to P&Ms via their Gamma Chis. Gamma Chis are sort of your student leaders, kind of like a PA leader for Welcome Week to help guide you through the recruitment process, and a P&M companion app, which will really easily show you your schedule and where you're invited back to. And so this process continues throughout the second round of recruitment and the preference event, which at that last night, instead of generating schedules, bids are generated. So we can go to the next slide. So that's a little bit about the general overview of the structure of recruitment. There are 4 different nights, one more time, and each one of them is a little bit different, but there are tips that apply for all of them. And so we picked 3 of the most important things that we really encourage potential new members, whether even in fraternities and sororities alike. Membership is for life, and this decision is 100% yours, whether it's your friends, your parents, your significant other, or other potential new members. It's not really their decision, and you shouldn't let others influence which way you go. You're committing to this organization, and it should be about where you're most comfortable. In addition to that, you should keep an open mind and be optimistic about all the invitations that you receive. You have to, I know it's like the worst thing ever to say, but you have to trust the process, and it will work out in the way that's supposed to. In connection to that, it's so very important to be yourself. It's the way mutual selection works and recruitment itself works. It relies on a genuine connection. So in the long run, you'll be happiest in the house where you feel the most comfortable. And that starts by being yourself during recruitment. And if you stay true to who you are and just act like the person you are in everyday conversation, you'll find a house and that you belong in and feel comfortable in. And then this is sort of like a related but less important advice guidelines. When you sign up for recruitment, you receive a P&M handbook, and part of that handbook goes over the outfits and all these sort of minor things like rec letters and stuff like that. For that, in that purpose, the suggestions for each outfit and recruitment events and all of these tips are just suggestions. Please wear and act in the way that makes you feel comfortable. The outfits is not important as the meaningful conversations that you generate with the actives. And at the end of the day, sorority recruitment is at Rhodes is about these conversations and not as much about what you wear or how you look. And I think that's really important to stress over and over and again. And I think that's one of the good things about virtual recruitment is that it's all been scaled back. It's not really like these really stressful environments with a lot of like songs and decorations. And instead, it's really this year about genuine connection more than ever. And I think that's one of the benefits of doing recruitment virtually is that it's really just about the quality of the conversations that you're having with the actives that you're paired with. So overall, when you register for recruitment, as Margaret said, the link is on the FSL website. If you just Google student life and at Rhodes College, it should pop up. It's also on the Instagram. When you register for recruitment, you'll get a more in-depth handbook, which goes over every single night of recruitment, the expectations, academic and financial obligations, and specific philanthropies for each chapter. So that is a really important research, and you'll get that as within a day of you signing up for recruitment. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to send it to you beforehand, and we'll open it up to questions at the end of this. But we have resources here for you. Me and Margaret and Luke are all here to answer any questions that you may have. And our information is not only on the screen in front of you, but it's also on the FSL website yet again. So feel free to reach out to any of us. Margaret, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I'll pass it over to Luke now.
All right, how's it going, everybody? As I said earlier, I'm Luke, and I'm the president of the IFC here at Rhodes. And at Rhodes, we have 5 current active chapters: Pi Kappa Alpha, Alpha Tau Omega, Kappa Sigma, Kappa Alpha, and Sigma Nu. And this is kind of my general explanation of the IFC. We're a member of the National Interfraternity Council, which is the governing body for fraternities across the continent, and they kind of provide direct support for IFCs at their institutions. And at the campus level, the council's purpose is to advance fraternity presence and to provide interfraternal leadership to the entire community. We help to plan events and promote cooperation between these chapters to ensue a lasting culture of Greek life at Rhodes College. And so this is how recruitment works. As I'm sure you all know, the deadline for recruitment is the 29th. And we will be attempting to have an in-person rush week this year. And these below are the 4 steps of this. So it begins with walkthroughs. And traditionally, we walk through each chapter lodge and meet active brothers. So depending on the weather, we will be able to cycle through each lodge, and we'll have a limited selection of brothers kind of give you information about their fraternity and have some small one-on-one conversations, socially distanced, of course. But if this doesn't work out due to weather, we have rented out the BCLC gym, so we can kind of give you these same conversations. And there will be a remote option for all these events. In the event of walkthroughs, we will have pre-recorded walkthroughs of every house online. And then afterwards, we have an IFC-wide event. It's not part of this official selection process, but it will allow you to kind of begin to meet some of the brothers and have more one-on-one interactions and build connections. And this will be held on February 7th. Afterwards, we have a smokers night. In the past, this is where the PNMs are invited back to houses, and they would smoke cigars and have these one-on-one interactions. But given COVID and social distancing, I do not think the cigars will be present this year. This is going to occur on Thursday, February 11th. And once again, our first plan is to have these at the lodges and outdoors. But if that doesn't work, we have reserved some spaces on campus that we can go to. Afterwards, there's the signing process, in which the PNMs will sign on to campus director. And once they sign on, they'll be able to see the bids they are given and then order these bids in preference of where they would like to go. Afterwards, we will have bid day. And this is a pretty cool event. Everyone meets in the outdoor amphitheater at FJ, and we read out the bids to all the students, and they'll begin the process. I mean, that'll be the end of recruitment for them. And of course, due to COVID and everything, there is a deferred recruitment option. You can defer to fall of next year if you're not comfortable with rushing at this time. And why join a fraternity? Kind of as Margaret said earlier about sororities, students can obtain leadership roles within their chapter or IFC. It's not like going to a school where you know anyone. You can build a leadership role within a group of people that you know well already. And then afterwards, members will learn to become part of an organization bigger than themselves. And I know dues are usually a big talking point for most potential rushies. At Rhodes, they tend to be considerably less expensive than in other colleges and universities. And there usually are payment plans, and they're very flexible. And of course, just like in the real world, new members are able to enter an organization at the ground floor. And of course, there are networking and job opportunities that become available with the wide alumni networks that most fraternities have. And once again, if you guys have any questions about this, feel free to email me. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
So I think that's all we have regarding the presentation, but we can take any and all questions now.
I saw a couple of the questions that were typed out. Some of them are about sorority recruitment, some are about fraternity recruitment. Dr. Ray very kindly answered them, but to go over some of them, yes, fully remote students will be able to go through recruitment. If you didn't receive a handbook, I saw that question multiple times. Please reach out to my email. It's on the Rose website. I have them. I'm the one who distributes them. Usually they come within 24 hours of registering for recruitment, but I'm a little bit behind, so it's close to 48 right now. So if you registered in the past couple days, I wouldn't worry, but it might have gone to your spam because it's shared from Box. So please just reach out to me via email, and I'd be more than happy to send that to you. Are there options for people who can't afford it? At least for sorority recruitment, I believe Luke also mentioned payment plans. Joining Greek life, whether a fraternity or sorority, is a large financial commitment. There is no point in beating around the bush in that front. And that being said, Rhodes does work with you, and the chapters in particular have individual financial obligations and individual payment structures, but almost every chapter offers some form of scholarship or some form of payment plans in order to make being in a fraternity or sorority more accessible to everyone. And that's something that a lot of chapters are taking, at least for sororities, I don't want to speak for fraternities, are taking into consideration, considering the situation around COVID. And so a lot of sororities have lowered their dues substantially to adjust for COVID and to make joining a sorority something still accessible to as many people as we can, even considering the context of a pandemic. Luke, do you want to add anything about any of the questions?
Well, I know Dr. Ray somewhat answered the question about fraternity recruitment events. Like he said, the deadline is the 29th to sign up. And then the walkthrough round will be on the 6th. Afterwards, the IFC-wide event will be on February 7th. After that, Smokers Night will be on February 11th. And Bid Day will be on February 13th.
I saw a question about not being put in a Gamma Chi group. If you haven't received an invitation to join a Gamma Chi group via GroupMe is where you'll receive that invitation. Again, reach out to me. If you feel like you're having any logistical issue, and that includes not being able to attend a recruitment party, having a really tight schedule that weekend, please feel free to reach out to me. We're being really flexible. That's another great thing about virtual recruitment is we'll make it work at the end of the day, no matter what your obligation is or what is going on, and any type of that logistical stuff, I'd be more than happy to fix any of that for you. Are there any other questions that haven't been answered?
Can you, we've received some questions about if people need to change the resume after it was uploaded. Can you respond to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the resume feature is kind of challenging for a campus director. I can't have you resubmit them, but what I've been doing is just having people send them to me, and I've been putting them in a box folder for the chapters to access. So they'll be able to see an updated resume if you want to submit that. Again, it can just go straight to my email, and I'll put it in that box folder that the chapters have access to in order to see the most updated form of your resume. Does that answer that question?
And there's also a question about recommendation letters.
Yes. So recommendation letters are different for every sorority. That's again covered in the handbook, but at Rhodes College, recommendations are entirely optional. I know other bigger schools take them a little bit more seriously, but they are really just like an extra accessory to your application that they read before they meet you. And it just helps give the chapters a better idea of who you are and what your interests are, but they're by no means necessary. Each chapter has individual policies for how and where they accept them, and the alum that wrote your recommendation letter should be able to look up how that particular chapter accepts them. I can double check. The only thing to know is that Tri Delta doesn't accept letters of recommendation at all. Chi Omega has an online portal, and AOPI and Kappa Delta both prefer via mail. Will bid day for sororities be in the evening of Monday? It'll be after like classes, but before your first year seminar. It's going to be structured. If we do, we're waiting to see how the situation in Memphis regarding COVID will play out, and we're still selecting between what is going to be safer option, virtual or in person, like a modified bid day. And if there is a modified bid day that has an in-person component, you'll be able to submit your schedule in order to make sure that the time you're assigned to is appropriate for your schedule, and it'll be over before first year seminar, so it won't conflict with any of your obligations. Do I recommend submitting rec letters? I think it's entirely up to you. If you have someone that you know well and like you think their letter will be able to help the chapters understand more about you and who you are, then go for it, absolutely, but they're definitely not necessary. I think that's all of the ones that I've seen. Feel free to ask any questions that you can think of.
And Star, we received a question about this presentation. What we'll do is after it is recorded and it downloads, we will put a link up on the Fraternity and Sorority Life webpage so that if you want to come back to this and review the information or share it with any friends who were unable to attend tonight, you'll have that option. It generally takes overnight for the file because it's fairly large to download. But as soon as it downloads and I get the email, we will send it so that it can be added to the webpage.
At what point will recruitment schedules be available? I just saw that question. So the schedule for recruitment is like there's tentative, like the dates are available and online, but the actual like this is you will be going to visit Kappa Delta at 3:00 schedule will come out the night before recruitment begins, so that would be Thursday, and you'll have an idea of what your schedule would look like then. But your Gamma Chi will tell you like the time chunks that you could possibly be assigned a time much sooner than that. So if you have any type of conflict or need to go be somewhere or have anything going on, feel free to reach out to your Gamma Chi or me so we can get that fixed to make sure you're assigned to an appropriate party. If I don't have a letter of recommendation, will other women with recommendation letters be looked upon more favorably compared to me? No, is the answer. They are just really to help so not like pre-assigned, but help match you to women that the chapter thinks you'd enjoy a conversation with, and just to give them a little bit more idea of your interests, the same way that your resume and all the other questions that you filled out. So no, it won't give you an advantage over anyone else. It won't put you at a disadvantage not to have one. It's just another nice thing to have to give the chapters the opportunity to make the experience more individual to you, and to make sure that you're talking to girls that you think will be interesting and that you have things in common with and that are a good fit for you in the chapter. So no, it's not a huge deal if you don't have one. I didn't have a single one going through recruitment, and now I'm vice president of recruitment. It's really not a big deal at all. How much are typical dues? Dues really vary by chapter. A new policy that we've enacted is that we're really pursuing financial transparency. So we really want to make sure that no one is surprised by the financial obligation that they're entering by joining a sorority. And so when you register recruitment, or if you'd like to view them beforehand, again, the exact dues that the chapters are that we included COVID adjusted dues and standard dues, so you'll be able to know. And then we also included the breakdown of new member dues versus active dues, because typically your first semester in a sorority is your most expensive. So those are broken down by chapter into really specifics in order to give you a really comprehensive view of this financial obligation, because we understand it's a lot. We understand that it is a financial commitment, and we want to make sure you're fully aware of what you're getting into. And I think that's really important considering the context of the pandemic. So it, once again, is in that recruitment handbook. And if you'd like to view it or want to look at it before you register, I'm also more than happy to send it to you. How many hours a day would recruitment last? I don't know about men's recruitment, to be honest, but for sorority recruitment, you'll be going to 4 parties, and the longest it would be is in total like 2 hours of spending time like with the sororities, but that doesn't include the time that you spend ranking and speaking to your Gamma Chi. And also your parties might not be back to back to back. You might go to Kappa Delta and then have an hour off before you go to another sorority. So it can be not like a long day, but it just kind of depends how your schedule falls together. But it's not, especially because it's virtual, it's not a huge time commitment. The first day the parties are 30 minutes long, and then they increase from there, but you also go to fewer houses as the nights go on. So it kind of ends up being, I think, close to 2 hours in total.
Yeah, on the fraternity side, the maximum time that you'll be spending on recruitment is 2 hours. That's what we have allotted for walkthroughs and smokers night. But of course, when it comes to both of those, if you do have time conflicts, just reach out to me or anyone else, and we will find a way to work around it. You're not locked into those 2 hours by any means.
After recruitment, do we have to join a sorority, or can we deny the offers for financial reasons? Yes. So how it works is preference night before you do your final ranking, you sign a form called the MRABA, and the only it's a contract the same way any other thing that you sign is, but the only thing that it binds you to is that you can't go through recruitment for another calendar year. And that's the only like thing you're committing to by going through the recruitment process. That just says that if you receive a bid from a sorority and you don't want to accept it, you can't accept like a continuous open bid later in the year. You have to wait a full calendar year to go through recruitment again. And so if you join the sorority and you just don't think that it's going to work out financially, and that a payment plan or other types of financial assistance aren't reasonable for you or your situation, there is nothing before initiation holding you to accept that offer. I will say the sororities will absolutely do their best to make it work so that you can stay and do whatever it is necessary to get you to stay, because that's what they want to do. They picked you to be there for a reason, and they clearly, if you're receiving a bid from them, they want you there, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make it work. But obviously, if it's just something that you can't financially and conceivably do, there's no penalty for like leaving the process after bid day. The only thing though is if you are initiated into a sorority, you can't join another one after that unless you transfer to a school that your chapter isn't offered. But that is the only thing that you are committing to, is after you're initiated, you can't join another chapter, but you would be well aware of your like financial expected financial contributions by then. So that shouldn't be an issue. What does the new member phase after accepting a bid and before initiation look like? Oh, so that's actually a really good question. I think that's one that we don't really actually talk about before recruitment a lot of time. So mostly it'll look a little different, obviously, because it needs to be like partially virtual, but then I'm sure there will be like smaller socially distanced activities, but it'll be about making connections amongst your pledge class, and it'll also be um, they'll throw events and have different opportunities for you to meet all the actives. You'll be assigned sort of like on bid day, you're assigned a buddy who comes and gives you, typically, if it was in person, they'd give you your little sign and like walk you back to your house. And they'll pair you with different people that they think you'd make a good connection with, or someone that you talk to during recruitment. So you're sort of ushered into this process. And right before initiation, typically you'll receive a big, who is your big sister in the sorority, who is like there to be a resource to you, to guide you through the process, and just to really like be a friend to you in the sorority. But also your sorority family provides like sort of like the roots of your connection to being in a sorority. So before initiation and after bid day, that new member period is really, really fun. The chapters really go out of their way to make you feel connected and wanted. And I'm sure that'll be no different, even though it'll be partially a virtual experience, or if you're off campus, a fully virtual experience. But they'll do their absolute best to make you feel connected to your chapter and to foster connection within your pledge class. So as a first,
Sorry about
oh,
that.
go ahead.
No, no, you're good.
No,
On
no,
the
go ahead. No,
fraternity
absolutely.
side, yeah, I'd like to echo a lot of what Star said. That period between bid day and initiation, I know the time varies chapter to chapter, but it's basically, yeah, spent getting you to make connections within your pledge class and with actives. And then, yeah, just like when it comes to sororities, typically right before initiation, you're assigned a big brother within the fraternity. So, I mean, that time you foster a lot of connections to the fraternity, to your pledge class, and to the actives that, I don't know. I mean, they carry on for the next 3 years you have at Rhodes College.
Um, Absolutely, I 100% agree. It's joining a sorority or a fraternity is really important for making connections, and I think it'll be especially a unique experience considering that we didn't have a traditional first semester by any means. So I think being involved in Greek life is a really good way to like ground yourself in a community, because I might not know or be best friends with every single person in my chapter, but I know who they are. I'll always see them on campus and say hi, and like those people will always be there as a little micro community within Rhodes. And so that new member period especially is about fostering connections, so you feel comfortable saying hi to those people on campus, going up to them in classes, and other things like that. And so the new member period is like an essential time for making you feel connected to the sorority or fraternity itself. Another question about with the calendar year about after signing the MREBA, it would be the next calendar year's recruitment. So you're going through recruitment in 2021, you would be eligible to go through recruitment in 2022. So you'd be able to go through the recruitment process the next year if you so chose, but you can't accept a snap bid or a continuous open bid, which is not very common at Rhodes, so it tends not to be a big deal. But those are just a type of bid outside of the formal recruitment process. If you sign the NRABA and then choose to decline your bid, you just can't accept those. That's the only thing. And then how many women usually go through recruitment versus join? I think on average, 10 people out of 175. That was the statistic for last year. Um, didn't join. And then I don't know the exact retention statistics. It's different for each sorority, but usually almost everyone sticks it out through the process. And it's very, very uncommon at Rhodes for you to be released from the process. I know that can happen a lot at bigger state schools where you're not invited back anywhere, but that's exceedingly rare at Rhodes. And it's usually like a personal choice to withdraw, but we have very low withdrawal rates every single year. So almost everyone who goes through recruitment ends up joining and accepting a bid. it just kind of depends chapter to chapter how many people stick through the new member period in its entirety and become a member. Are the sorority houses accessible for disabled people? Yeah, I believe they should all be handicap accessible. All of them are one floor, so there's no issue about going upstairs or anything like that. Almost all the houses are relatively new. AOPI actually just completed their new house renovation. So I believe, I haven't been in one of the houses since recruitment, but I'm almost confident all of them are handicap accessible. And I think that's the general expectation with like fraternity and sorority houses in general. I'm not quite sure about fraternity houses, about their accessibility, but
I mean, I know for the most part they are accessible. However, most houses do have a second floor, which would make it difficult for disabled people. But outside of that, they are essentially accessible.
And to add to that, for some of the fraternity houses, based on the date when they were built, that's why the second floor in some of them are not accessible. But anything that's constructed or any renovation or modifications that happen moving forward, they would all be in compliance with ADA regulations. The challenge is that most of all the fraternity lodges were built prior to that federal law.
what exactly is bid day? That's a really good question. It's kind of like this big, exciting term that we throw around, but it's not often explained as well as it could be. So, how bid day typically works is we'll go outside to Fisher Gardens and you're handed an envelope and you stand with your Gamma Chi group, who hopefully you should have bonded with in some way, shape, or form throughout the process. And everyone opens their bids at the exact same time, and then someone will come meet you with like some kind of like sign with your name on it, and they'll walk with you back to the house where you hang out, take pictures. They give you like all your exciting new member gifts and all of that, and then typically you go with the chapter to some kind of activity where all the actives will be there and to do some form of fun bonding event. It's a lot, it's a long day, you're really tired by the end, but it's lots of fun. The difference is with the situation regarding COVID, that type of bid day is just not safe. Obviously, I don't think I need to tell you that, but we're working on a dual plan for both virtual and in modified in-person recruitment or bid day opportunity. And so once we get a little bit closer, we're going to make the final call depending on how move in and first couple days of classes go COVID wise. We'll make that final executive decision about what we think is going to be the most safe for not only everyone going through recruitment, but the general Memphis community, because that's something that's really, really important to all of us, fraternities and sororities alike. And so as of now, we don't know which one we're going to select. I know that's like a really obnoxious answer, but we're just trying to do the right thing involving COVID. And we would love to execute a modified bid day safely. And we have a really, really thorough plan that we're working on in order to, if we do a modified activity, ensure that it's very, very safe and 100% in accordance to state, county, and roads guidelines. So if we did elect to do an in-person component to bid day, it would be very different from that visual that I just described earlier of what bid day is typically like. But it would still be, regardless of whether it's modified in person or virtual, it's still going to include bonding components. It's still, the chapters will like bring you something as like a welcome gift. It's a really fun day, and I'm sure the chapters are doing their absolute best to bring some of that energy into this different experience. But yeah, bid day is really exciting. Do you want to talk about bid day for the guys, Luke?
Yeah, well, of course, it'll have to be modified this year, but we do plan on having an in-person beginning to bid day. And afterwards, it usually varies chapter to chapter, but a lot like you guys, Star, of course, we're going to come up with a detailed, thorough plan so we can so that each chapter will be having activities that act in accordance with Rhodes guidelines. But yeah, it's essentially a time where you get to know your pledge class and you become acclimated with this group of guys that you'll be spending the next couple of years with. And that's about it. We meet in the FJ amphitheater, and it's kind of everyone crowded around. It's usually a pretty cool scene. And afterwards, I'll read out the names and the prospective fraternities that they'll all be joining. And afterwards, usually all the pledge classes will go off in each group in correspondence to those fraternities. But of course, this year we're working on modifying it. That beginning will be in person though this year.
The next question is, do sorority activities tend to interfere / conflict with other activities? No, I would say. I think, like, yes, being like anything else, being in a sorority is a commitment of your time, but almost everyone who's in a sorority is involved with something else. We pride ourselves, whether a fraternity or a sorority, that our members are involved in a lot more than just Greek life. They're involved in other clubs and other student organizations, in research, in other sort of areas of Rhodes College. And that's something that's really awesome about Greek life at Rhodes College, is that it doesn't dominate your life completely. And your chapters actually encourage you to be involved with other things. Like, I became a PA leader after an older woman in my sorority recommended that to me as an experience. And I think we actually very much encourage people to do the opposite and to join things that are outside of Greek life and to participate on campus, because even though we have our particular philanthropies, being involved in Greek life is about giving back. It's about bettering yourself. And that includes being involved in a lot of other things that are outside of Greek life. So no, it is a time commitment, especially the new member period. It does take up like a bit of your week, but it's nothing unmanageable, and most of the time it's quite enjoyable. Almost all the chapters have a meeting weekly or bi-weekly on a Monday where all the chapter comes together, and that's going to be a little bit different, obviously, because the entire chapter can't fit in the lodges the way they used to. But no, I don't think it's a crazy time commitment. And I think that you should be encouraged to do things that are outside of Greek life in order to enhance and better your Greek life experience. But if Luke, if you want to add something for fraternity life.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it creates a community, but I think you'd be selling your Rhodes experience short if you stayed within that community. It's not exclusive. We want you to go out and be active on campus, be a part of other groups and philanthropy events. And that's really all there is to it. It is a baseline community, but it's not an exclusive one.
Can you go through rush your sophomore, junior, or senior year, or can you only do it freshman year? For sororities, you can do it typically freshman and sophomore year, but there have been juniors who've joined. It's just kind of like your new member period is a whole semester. So it's mostly first years and sophomores that go through the recruitment process, but I'm not quite sure about fraternities. I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah, it's the exact same on the fraternity side. So of course we talked about that deferred rush period. That usually lends itself to being only freshmen and sophomores, but like Star said, juniors and seniors have occasionally rushed. But because that new member period is usually a whole semester, it's a lot more rare. But freshmen and sophomores, very, very often.
What does the time commitment look like once you've become an active member? Once you're an active, the time commitment becomes sort of more individual depending on how involved you want to be. Something that Greek life stresses is the ability to provide you leadership experience. And so you can just sort of not like go through the motions, but there's a lot less of a time commitment once you're an active. You have your weekly chapter meeting, and then there's obviously, not with COVID not existing, there's formals, there's swaps, there's philanthropy events that you commit to. All of this is a little different obviously because of COVID, but hopefully within some foreseeable future this will change a little bit, fingers crossed. But the time commitment is lower once you're inactive because you're not doing as many activities to sort of give you that foundation for your experience. However, every single chapter at Rhodes encourages you to take a leadership position. I can only speak from my own experience, but in Kappa Delta, you're required to have a position of some kind that encourages you to invest into the chapter and invest your time and grow your own strengths. And I think that is a sentiment that's echoed by every chapter on campus, regardless of sorority or fraternity, is that you're encouraged to get involved and you're encouraged not, you don't want to be forced to be there. They want you to want to be there and to elect to give your time to a leadership position that could further you as a person, further your career, just further your skills in general. So it's very much a sort of variable time experience. A lot of people are involved in a ton of other things, are in very academically rigorous courses. So if you're having a hard semester and being involved at like a really in-depth capacity isn't in the cards for you, then that's totally okay. But they absolutely encourage you to make the most of what you can with your time involved in Greek life. And yeah, that's sort of that on that. Once you join a sorority, is it completely binding for all 4 years? No, it's not completely uncommon for people to drop. It's a lot more common for people to go inactive, and inactive is a process where you're not like disaffiliating from the sorority, but you're not participating for the semester. And people go inactive relatively often to go abroad, or they have a research opportunity that's going to completely conflict with Greek life, and it's just not worth committing themselves to, or they just won't be able to attend a majority of events. So going inactive is relatively common. People do drop Greek life. You're not forced to be there for 4 years. I will say recruitment chairs and membership chairs will do their best to try to adapt your experience in order to mitigate the problem that's making you want to drop. We have really good retention rates at Rhodes College for aluming and graduating. So I don't think that is like a super common experience. We do really, really well at Rhodes with getting people to stay involved in Greek life throughout their entire experience. But it's not like a legally binding that you have to stay for all 4 years. You're financially committed to all 4 years. That being said, once again, they will absolutely do their best to convince you to stay and change your experience in order to address whatever is making you want to leave. But it's not like you're not forced to stay for 4 years. If you do drop Greek life, could you rush again the following year to try to join a different chapter? No, once you're initiated, you cannot drop and join another chapter. That initiation is a binding experience because you know, like sort of the inner ritual of the sorority, and it just wouldn't be appropriate for you to be able to drop at that point. So once you're initiated, you are bound to be in that sorority. Again, the only exception is that if you transfer to a different school where, like, for example, if I transferred somewhere where Kappa Delta wasn't offered, I'd be able to go through the recruitment process again, but it's just like a different adapted situation. But that's exceedingly rare. So if you do get initiated, you are bound to that fraternity and sorority, and you're unable to go through recruitment with a different chapter. Is there any?
Again, as Star said, sorry, that's spot on for fraternities also. I know she tied that in there at the end, but I wanted to double down on that. Once you're initiated, it is binding.
It looks like we may have come to the end of questions. And so I'd like to thank all the students who participated. If you have additional questions, you can email Luke or Star or Margaret or myself or Dean Golston. Like I said, this recording will be available on the website, hopefully sometime tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, by Wednesday. So we hope that you consider going through the recruitment process. Again, going through doesn't mean that you've committed. but it's a great opportunity for you to see what the process is, get to meet people in the chapters, and really determine if being a member of a fraternity or sorority is something that would be a good experience for you. Both Dean Golson and myself are Greek, and it was a phenomenal part of our undergraduate experience. We both still volunteer and do work with our organizations because of the lifelong commitment and the relationships that we made through that experience. And so we encourage you to just consider it. And we hope that you got your questions answered. But like I said, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach back out. Margaret, Luke, do you all have any final thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight.
Yeah, thank y'all, and feel free to reach out with any questions.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. And this concludes our webinar.